Hello again, welcome to Bridlington. It's now the 14th of July 2025. Here we are at beautiful Bridlington, top resort on the Yorkshire coast, lobster fishing capital of Europe. You can see the tide is in, going out slightly. We'll walk down towards the slipway there that looks out onto the South Beach. Here we have some of the Heritage Trail. In the distance there, the beautiful South Beach. That's Bridlington South Pier. Walking along here past the Union flag, the Union Jack restaurant there, fish and chips. Fish and chips being a big deal at Bridlington. You must have fish and chips if you ever go to Bridlington, perhaps with mushy peas. Traditional Yorkshire, Lancashire food here in the north of England and further north, of course. Here we have some of the fishing cobbles, the very famous ones. I'll show you them now. That's the Three Brothers there on the left. There's the Bridlington Sailing Cobble Festival, 20th of July. Well worth a visit. You can actually join the Preservation Society there and go out on one of these cobbles. Not on your own, of course. It's not the 1970s anymore. But you can join and go out with the crew there that know how to sail it. Well, of course, back in the 1970s here, there was a fleet of yellow rowing boats there. Now, Venus there is over 100 years old. And you could rent these rowing boats and row outside the harbour, terrify the adults who were with you. The King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry, what has that got to do with Bridlington? Why am I here today? The reason I'm filming this is because, oh, by the way, this is a bit of a trigger warning. So if you don't like World War II or death and disaster, just please stop watching at this moment. But one of my uncles was in the Coily, the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry, in April 1940, about to depart from the Clyde in Scotland, the River Clyde, and they'd shipped this very unfortunate situation in Norway where the Germans, the Nazis, had invaded, and we were sort of responding to that. However, they'd boarded this ship and they didn't have any winter gear. Now, the snow in Norway was up to your thighs on the mountainsides there. And just before it sailed, my uncle realised they were sailing into an absolute disaster. Now, he was only 19 years old at the time. He wrote a letter to a sailor who was departing the ship, a total breach of regulations, of course, and said this letter got to my father the next day: save yourself, join the RAF. And my father immediately joined the RAF upon reading that. And my uncle got machine gunned. He died in Norway in that campaign, but not before he'd spent several days fighting without any skis, without any winter gear. They were just in regular British uniforms up to their thighs in snow, without anything, any warm gear at all. Because without skis you couldn't move. And but as a result of that letter, I'm here today filming this at Bridlington. Of course, the generation before me, it was our fathers who went through World War II, wasn't it? Perhaps that was your grandfather that went through World War II. Survivors, of course, that then came back to Bridlington after World War II in the early 1950s. The country was ruined basically by the Second World War. The survivors came back here to a very different UK with rationing. I can remember rationing one pair of shoes and so on in the very early 1950s. Totally different to how it had been in the 1920s when these young men who had shipped abroad had come to Bridlington. In those days it was absolutely packed here. I've seen photographs in the 1920s and 30s where the pier here was absolutely full of people. Now look at the Yorkshire Bell, how beautiful it looks today. It seems to have a fresh paint job. In fact, it seems to be so beautiful and done out, sort of refurbished or whatever. It looks like it's just come out brand new from the shipyard to me. Here we are at the end of, coming towards the end of the North Pier at Bridlington. I'll do a bit of a panorama here. Because I'm actually back at home now in West Yorkshire doing this voiceover. It was quite windy. Temperature was 18°C. Here we're looking out towards, just going past Flamborough Head. There's the North Beach over there. Now I'm going to go walk up towards North Beach shortly. The Yorkshire Bell again, and the beauty of Bridlington town. The old cannon there pointing out to sea. And the sun in the southeast. Out there in the distance, Bridlington South Beach. At the top of that light there is the flashing light and the fog horn halfway up. Not a very deep pitched horn, but there it is, it does the job. Yorkshire Bell, the beauty of those old buildings there in the background, and maintained the colouring of white colours, seaside white and blue. We have a fishing boat coming in. Now this reminds me of when I stood on the end of this pier aged 16. Now I'm filming this with an iPhone 16 Pro at 120 frames a second. However, I stood here exactly as a 16-year-old in probably 1964 and filmed a yacht coming into Bridlington Harbour, and it was in slow motion exactly like this, with a Bell & Howell Sportster wind up standard 8 camera that I bought. It was a metal one, held it in the palm of your hand, and cost me £15, which is actually about 3 weeks' pay for a school leaver in those days, if you were working in the factory industry and so on in the West Riding of Yorkshire. Bell & Howell, well worth a read if you're a little bit bored, want to look something up. Look up Bell & Howell. If you think the iPhone's really good, look at the mechanical marvels of the I think it was the 1920s. Only 2 film studios had these. I'm not talking about the Bell & Howell Sports. I'm talking about the Bell & Howell cinema equipment. What can be done with filmmaking with mechanical means? It's a fantastic read. I think the only person that owned one privately was Charlie Chaplin, and a couple of film studios. We'll walk back past the Yorkshire Bell. That might be the captain there. Walk back towards the town. The pirate ship there, getting ready to go. And one remaining fishing boat, the Olivia P there. The rest of the fishing fleet perhaps out to sea or tied up further back. I can see perhaps he's about to cast off a mooring line there. You've got to catch a seagull flying over at Bridlington, haven't you? You've got to watch yourself as well, they're all over the place. You've got fish and chips straight out of your hand. Looking down towards the Gypsy Race dredger, there's a cafe there, a small toilet where you've got to, a toilet where you've got to pay to enter, but all the toilets in Bridlington are free, apart from that one I think. Casting off here. Of course, that being the fish dock over there where you would sort of unload your catch. It's predominantly, if not all, lobster fishing here now at Bridlington. The whitefish fishing fleet is long gone, I think. Of course, it's a sports fishing area as well. Lots of these boats take anglers out to sea and catch fish there. Catch fish in the bay and perhaps further out. Looking towards the North Beach there. This is Gansey Lass, a really good statue. There's an inscription down at the bottom which you'd want to read if you come here. Gansey Lass. Lass meaning girl, of course, or woman in Yorkshire, and Gansey being the name for a sweater. Here is the Yorkshire Bell cruisers. Walking past the old sea mine with the prongs removed. I wonder why. And up the steps. You see, I can still run up the steps 2 at a time, even though I'm being treated for anemia. Wonder if my doctor will see this. Of course, I'm not off sick because I'm 76. Just a bit of humour there, you know, you've got to laugh, haven't you? Here we are, looking at the Olivia P with the iPhone 16 Pro on its 5x zoom. Or should I say it's 5x lens. It's not a zoom, it's a lens actually, 5x lens. Well, zoomed in then. You can zoom between the lenses. I think it's you can just see the crew there under the awning at the front, going to tie up. Now, I usually walk that way down into Bridlington and film it, don't I, if you've seen my earlier videos. But I thought I'd walk in this direction and let you have a look at some of the leisure activities. Because when you do come to Bridlington, often it's raining. This being Yorkshire and pretty far north in the UK. So what do you do if it's raining in Yorkshire? Well, you can go into these amusement things. If you don't mind risking being put on some sort of was it operant conditioning? I'm trying to remember the experiments we did at college, at university with B.F. Skinner and his rats. Or was it pigeons that used to peck and get a reward every so often? Variable interval and variable ratio I think are the most pervasive reinforcers for behaviour. Oh, sorry about that. Bit of distraction there, a bit of memory from very long ago. There are nice places to go into and amuse yourself a bit if you don't mind losing some cash. There are some very interesting new businesses in Bridlington and old ones that have survived. I remember talking about amusements. I remember was it the old Granger's holiday camp at the back on the South Shore many years ago. I'm aged 8 or 10 years old. One of my friends calculated on this machine. It went through a sequence of about 20 different results, right? And after about 20, how can I describe this? There were 2 precedents for this. It stopped on a certain number, and then it stopped on a certain number again. And then after those 2 sequences, on the next one it paid out. So this kid put his penny in then and got a payout. Now we could, it was like random for about 5 minutes, but he could spot these 2 sequences when they came up. I often wonder what he did in his life, with such skills. Was able to do that. Now we saw the owner of the place looking at us, or whoever was in charge there, with a jaundiced eye perhaps. And of course, when we came back the next holiday, he was looking at us again. And of course, he'd have the thing altered so that we'd cracked it basically. This machine, and got it to pay out all the time. Of course, you'd be there for hours, and it only paid out pennies. Yeah, some interesting food. And the backdrop of it all here, you've got the beautiful cliffs of Flamborough Head. I think there's everything here. You've got the sort of slide there. You've actually got a fairground at Bridlington. You've got the amusements at the back there. Then you've got the waltzers there, haven't you? And there you've got a train going. I wonder where that goes. Perhaps that goes down onto... It's heading in the direction of Bridlington North Beach. Even in winter, there's plenty to do in Bridlington, and if there isn't, always it's so beautiful. The light changes, the sea looks blue sometimes it looks green. Even when all of this is boarded up, you still can get food on some of the stalls at Bridlington. Looking down towards the harbour there, and turning now, this is it seems to be an American restaurant. It seems as though it's sort of not been popular and gone bust. And here we are now walking along the back streets. I wonder if it was the location. And the Balmoral Hotel. I think that seemingly closed as well. So a lot of closed business in this area. But on the other hand, you get new ones and ones that are thriving. This at moment in time being a little bit over 5 years since the end of the COVID pandemic. Is it 5 or 6 years? Times move on. I don't think any of us will ever wear masks again after that experience, even if we're told we have to. It was a real learning curve, was that? You remember it? I remember going around with a mask on. Couldn't tell what people were saying. We went into a coffee place, and they had those glass panels, perspex panels, and they were wearing masks themselves. I've got a bit of a hearing problem. Couldn't tell what they were saying at all. On the left there, that almost looked like a World War II bomb site. Surely it can't be, can it? 80 years later. Must be something else that's caused those buildings to be taken down or collapsed or something. That's the Wetherspoons there. And in that direction, it's one of the main strips looking down towards the harbour, towards the town. And here we have a bust, one of the coastliners. North Landing, Thornwick Bay, Flamborough, Sowerby, and then back to Bridlington. So that's sort of going off towards the direction of Flamborough Head. Now you can go get off at the North Landing, I suppose, and have a look around there. Looking there at one of the main churches in in Bridlington. A little bit of seeming dereliction along there, but on the other hand there you seem to have a thriving cafe. This is the bus station in Bridlington, and just to the left there is the indoor shopping centre. Another one, Bridlington Driffield Hull. So that must go along the coast. Here we have the Four Seasons, which I think is really top quality fruit place, fruit and vegetables and so on. Nothing like this in the town I come from in West Yorkshire. Absolutely beautiful, don't you think? Always well laid out. We're coming to the end of the video now. I hope you enjoyed this tour of Bridlington. Take care now. Bye.